Article 10 is the Fair Housing Article. Strict adherence to the various federal, state, and local fair housing laws isn't just a legal and ethical obligation. It's one of the most important moral obligations realtors have. Realtors are often perceived to have the keys to the American dream, home ownership. For anyone to deny this dream based upon a prospective buyer or renter's inclusion in a protected class, well, let's just say such a person should never be a realtor. Article 10 of the Code of Ethics states,
Realtors shall not deny equal professional services to any person for reasons of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin. Realtors shall not be parties to any plan or agreement to discriminate against a person or persons on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin.
These directives should be second nature, but unfortunately we have to factor in human nature, and human nature is not always something that upholds the important standards and importance of fair housing. I want to emphasize that we only have time to barely scratch the surface of the realtor's obligations under Article 10 and the fair housing laws. These issues are of such importance that they require their own separate classes devoted solely to this topic. But at the same time, we can't ignore the importance of Article 10 to the Code of Ethics. I think it's important to recognize a key issue relating to fair housing. Article 10 only touches upon the federal fair housing laws, and it is true that is where your realtor ethical standards would begin and end. But you also must be equally knowledgeable of the applicable state and local fair housing laws, and you are still legally obligated to adhere to those laws as well as morally obligated. Remember, as realtors, you ascribe to a higher standard. Why are fair housing issues still such a big concern? Why do we always have to be paranoid? I'd suggest for two reasons. The first is very difficult. We probably have prejudices that we may not want to admit to ourselves. We may want to be matchmakers. Let me try to be direct on this issue. We are not matchmakers. We are real estate professionals. Buyers tell us what they're looking for, and we'll show them anything in their price range that meets their housing criteria. We can never allow our own prejudices to stand in the way of this process. We cannot steer buyers to neighborhoods where we feel they will be most comfortable. Such a practice is one of the most common violations of the federal fair housing laws. We must also recognize that the buyers and sellers, landlords and tenants we deal with on a daily basis may attempt to exert their own prejudices during the course of the transaction. In such instances, we must be on guard for such consumers and understand, as Article 10 states, that we cannot become a party to a plan to discriminate. Let's see how Fred and Patty deal with some challenging situations.
Good morning, Mr. Calloway. I've got great news. I have two offers for you, both very strong. One is for $285,000 and one is for $290,000, only $10,000 less than your asking price.
Good.
Yes, both buyers seem very well qualified.
That is good news. Who are the buyers?
Well, I'm not sure you've met either couple. To be honest, I've only met one. Another agent brought them in just after one of my showings.
Well, you must know something about them. Are they young? Old? Do they have children? Things along those lines. What are their names?
To be honest, Mr. Calloway, I really don't know. What difference does it make?
Well, I want you to understand that to me it makes absolutely no difference. Anybody who can afford my home can live in my home. But I have lived in this neighborhood for more than 30 years. You know, some of my neighbors just aren't as open-minded as I am.
Of course. I know that selling a house after 30 years can be difficult, but I think both of these couples would be wonderful additions to the neighborhood.
The thing is, Patty, my wife was home for one of the showings, and she indicated that one of the families seemed to be, well, from some South American country.
Mr. Calloway, that could well be the case, but obviously that wouldn't be a problem. We are looking for someone who could afford to buy your home for the price and terms you're looking for.
Yes, I agree. But at the same time, I have to be sensitive to know how they'll fit into this neighborhood.
I'm sure they'll fit in just fine.
Well, of course. I'm sure there won't be any problems. But nonetheless, I would just like to know the names of the two bidders.
Mr. Callaway, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the direction of this conversation.
Patty, don't misunderstand me. I'm just trying to get as much information as I can. What are the buyers' names?
Mr. Callaway, I'm really not comfortable with this. The $285 bid came from a Mr. Williams, and the $290 bid came from Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Patty. Counter Mr. Williams at $290.
But we already have an offer from Mr. Rodriguez at $290.
I'm aware of that. Make the counter to Mr. Williams. I'm confident we can strike a deal.
Mr. Callaway, I am not comfortable with this at all.
Miss Petunia, it's not necessary for you to be comfortable. Just please follow my instructions.
It's certainly understandable why Patty isn't comfortable, and it also seems to be clear that Patty didn't intend to do anything that would run afoul of the fair housing laws. But could she have done anything differently?